Hello everyone. So in this video I am going to talk about different types of UVM simulation actions. So let's begin. So so with each of the UVM macro there is a associated simulation action that performs. So for for macros like UVM info and UVM warning, the associated simulation action is UVM display, and same for warning also. So it is quite obvious. The job of UVM warning and UVM info is to print the print a particular message and particular string which you have provided through the macro on your console, on your output. It does not do any modification. They does not do any modification. Do not do any modification uh, to your simulation or the flow of your simulation. So there are certain simulation actions which are associated to four of the UVM macros. So first I will begin with talking about those simulation actions. So the first and foremost is UVM display, and job of UVM display is to just display message. So UVM display is common to both UVM info and UVM warning. And the second one which I would like to mention is UVM exit, which simply, as the name suggests, terminates simulation. So whenever you perform UVM exit, so the simulation will simply terminate and it will stop. It will simply stop and UVM fatal will be called. The third one is the UVM count, which basically increments error counter. So you remember that in my verbosity video, if you have watched it, I will recommend watching it. I have mentioned that with UVM error, there is a counter and you could set that counter. So by default, the counter is not set and the UVM error will keep running throughout the entire simulation. It will not terminate the simulation, and the number of errors which are in counter or the UVM errors which are in counter will be counted, and then towards the end of simulation, after it, the total number of counts or the occurrences of UVM error will be printed on your display or console or on your transcript. So there was a certain method of setting that counter. You could limit that counter to 10. So after receiving 10 number of errors, your total simulation will be terminated. So there's a way to do that, which I have also mentioned in one of my previous video. So other than UVM count, we have UVM log, which basically redirect message to a log file or various log file, which depends that what did you do. So UVM log is a very important simulation action, and I will make a separate video on that. And using the simulation action override method, you could just assign UVM log to any of the four macros, and the message that will usually display on your console or on your transcript will instead or can be written on a separate file, which you will call a log file. So whatever message which you get after running the UVM warning or UVM info or anything, it will get printed and recorded and saved or written in a separate text file. And you could do that using the UVM log, which I will discuss more about in my upcoming lecture. So after that, we have UVM no action, which basically means that it does nothing. No action will be performed. And then we have another one, UVM callback, which invokes callback method. So besides the definition, in this class we will be focusing on UVM display, UVM exit, UVM count, and UVM log. So if both, first of all, I would like to clear that UVM display is common to each four of the reporting macros, because each four of them, despite their effect on the simulation, each four of them will display certain message on your transcript. So first, we will talk about the UVM info macro and the associated simulation action. So as you know that UVM info is for not critical information messages, and you could filter out the messages by UVM info by setting the verbosity threshold. So depending on upon the verbosity threshold, UVM info will perform UVM display simulation action, which is nothing, which is just writing the message on the transcript. Same goes for UVM warning, but for UVM warning macro, you just have two arguments. The first argument is going to be the ID, and the second argument is going to be the message you want to write. So there is no third argument like in UVM info, which sets the verbosity threshold. So UVM warning basically is for some critical messages which you want to print, which basically says that there is something wrong with your design. So with UVM warning, UVM display will perform, but still it will definitely perform because there is no verbosity threshold. So let's go to the next one, which is UVM error. Just a second. So with the UVM error, there are two simulation actions associated. The first one is UVM display, and the second one is UVM count. So if you have followed my previous video, I have shown you a method of replacing the number of counts of UVM errors after which the simulation terminates, and that is the set max quit count and which can be accessed using the handle of a server class, so UVM server in specific. So inside this you will kind of write the maximum number of counts which will occur before the simulation quits. So by default, as I have mentioned, it is 0. So 0 basically means that it is deactivated and there will be uh, no simulation termination, and all the errors encountered will be counted and displayed later in the transcript. But if you set a value, then after 9, in this example, after 9 errors, the simulation will simply terminate. So that is what UVM count does. So that is just a counter which will keep on incrementing, and after that it will display the number of error which are encountered. And if you set a maximum bound, then after that limit the simulation will terminate, and that count value is handled by UVM count. So lastly we have UVM fatal, and UVM fatal also have UVM display, but on top of that it also has UVM exit. So UVM exit basically means whenever UVM exit is encountered, the simulation will simply quit. It will not wait. So UVM count is kind of similar to UVM exit if you will set the max quit count to 1. So right after encountering the very first error, it will just perform the simulation termination. So UVM exit just terminates the simulation whenever it is encountered, and it is associated to UVM fatal. Okay, there are few corrections which I would like to mention, and those are that this is just a second. This is UVM call hook, not callback, and yeah, it basically does the same thing. It call back the report. It invokes callback report hook method. So this is a more specific thing, and I may discuss about this in my upcoming lectures. And there is another one, and it is UVM stop. So by default, UVM call hook and UVM stop and even UVM log and no action are not associated to any of the four macros. But UVM stop is very simple. It just causes the simulation to stop. So it is just like the regular uh, stop that you will use in your simple test bench. So it gives you some time to do the debugging and observe what is going on with your test bench and the transcript. So I hope you find this video useful. In my upcoming video, I will be discussing more about the simulation action replacement methods, in which we will replace simulation action of certain macros in our UVM environment of a simple header. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.